What if you were involved in an emergency and law enforcement didn't know how to reach your loved ones? 3 easy steps can make a difference. Go to toinformfamiliesfirst.org on your computer or mobile device. Enter your driver's license number, followed by who you want notified. In the event of an emergency, law enforcement can make notification in minutes. It's just that simple. It takes less than 2 minutes to register your contact information. Do it today. Your family is counting on you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this brand new installment of the Nick Speaks podcast, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I'm your host, Nick Comstock. You guys, I'm so glad you joined me today on this Tuesday. So glad to be here. And you guys, out of all the episodes I've done so far, I believe that this is going to be my most important one that I've done. And I'm going to skip the show notes for now because we have a really important guest today. If you have a special needs child, you really need to tune into this show. We have a story of tragedy, but I believe also of triumph. And I have a woman today who unfortunately lost her daughter at the age of 22, but she took that tragedy and turned it into something magnificent. And we're going to talk about that today. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Christine Olson to Nick Speaks. Christine, how are you?
Nick, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful for every listening ear. And I hope that my story influences everyone here through you. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
I'm grateful that you're here, and you're just such an inspiring woman. I met you last week through a friend. We spoke on the phone, and I immediately said, you need to come on my podcast. And I'm so glad that you've agreed to do this. So, Christine, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you, and then we'll get into your story, and I'll ask you some questions, and we'll tell everybody why we're here today and the initiative you've been pushing for the last 19 years.
Well, thank you, Nick. So my name is Christine Olson. I live in Bradenton, Florida. Originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I came to Florida in 1999, actually Anna Maria Island. Many people will be familiar with that. It's a little 7-mile long barrier island on the Gulf Coast of Florida. And my brother used to live on the beach. And so when I would visit, I would say, you live on the ocean? What am I doing in Milwaukee? So in 1999, I made the move and never looked back. So I followed my brother that was already here. My son had graduated high school and then moved to the beach. I then went in 1999, like I said, but I had the very hard thing or job or whatever you want to call it to do, and that was to leave my daughter Tiffany Marie Olson in Milwaukee because she was in high school, and she literally thought, Mom, you're kind of nuts to think that you're just moving to Florida. But I knew it was a critical move for me in the situation that was going on in my life. Tiffany's dad lived in Milwaukee, so she was safe. She was in school. She just wasn't quite ready to make that move. So it was a hard job to leave her behind, but I did do it. So I've now been in Florida since then, going to be going on 25 years. And it has been a life changer for me. So I'm very grateful to be here.
Yeah, I get why your son and why you moved from Milwaukee, because that's right up there in the snow belt. And I am, let me tell you, I'm here in Ohio and I hate the snow and the winter with a passion. Yeah. But it's been a very hot summer here, so maybe the winter won't be as bad. We can hope.
We can hope.
But yeah, it's one of my lifelong dreams to maybe eventually move down to Florida. So yeah, I would love to. Um, so you have a very sad story, and we're gonna take our time. Um, so why don't you tell everybody about your initiative? It's called TIFF for short, Informing Families First. Take your time, take a deep breath, and tell your courageous story.
We'll see how this all goes.
Yeah.
So, at the time of the accident that took Tiffany's life, she was then 22 years old. So she had, come and finished, actually, she finished school in Florida her senior year. And that was hard on her, to come as a senior from one type of school, structure to Florida. That was just no friends, no acquaintances, nothing. So I never guess I really took the time to understand how hard that was on her, but she adapted fairly well. She made a few friends. She graduated. Um, she tried her hand at serving because Anna Maria Island is a 7 mile long barrier island. So what do you do on a barrier island? You go into the service industry. That's what the job market is there. So she tried her hand there and she just was nothing she liked. She just thought, this
Mhm.
isn't just for me. So she went on to find, I believe, would have probably been her career choice at that point. And she went to work for a home builder in Sarasota, Florida, which is a big market for building new homes, beach homes, vacation rentals, all that. And Tiffany was kind of that, she was the front end girl. So she talked to all the contractors. She got the days set up for, the employees, for her boss. One of her high points that she just loved, she went out to lunch with the girls. She thought that was the best thing to, the girls are going out to lunch now. I remember being at Whole Foods with her one time, and I had met her for lunch, and she said, "Mom, I got to cut lunch short because I have deadlines to get to." And I'm like looking at her like kind of surprised. It was new verbiage for Tiffany to be speaking. So, she had her life. I had mine, and we spent as much time as we could really together. So, December 7th of 2005, it was a Wednesday. And I had asked Tiffany to join me that day. There was a big grand opening of a big kind of health place, exercise, fitness, health foods, all that stuff. That's kind of up my alley. And she said, "Mom, I can't make it. I already have plans with Dustin," which was her then boyfriend. They were about maybe going on a year into their relationship. And it was a Wednesday, and she already had dinner plans. And she said, "I just can't make it. I'll catch up with you soon." And I said, "Okay." So Dustin was older to her by her. He was 7 years older, her senior. He was 29, Tiffany was 22. But
Mhm.
Dustin loved motorcycles. I say Dustin came out of the womb on a bike. He raced him, he jumped him. He loved his bike. Always safety was number one, but I just had this fear about Tiffany being on a motorcycle.
Sure.
But she loved Dustin. Dustin loved his bike. They loved each other, so she rode. And on Wednesday nights, they would attend these bike nights, places where people come together with their motorcycles and stuff, and they chit chat. They have a bite to eat. They go home and they get ready to finish out their week at work. So on that evening, December 7th of 2005, she was traveling northbound on Palmetto on US 19 at Palmetto. And excuse me if I get a little choked up because right now I'm reliving that night. I'm reliving everything going on, and it catches me off guard sometimes. But she was traveling northbound.
Fine.
She was traveling northbound on US 19 with Dustin, and they had another friend with them on a motorcycle following. And on that particular evening, a drunk driver rolled a stop sign, hitting the motorcycle that Tiffany and Dustin were riding on. Tiffany was killed on impact. She was thrown 93 feet, broke her neck.
God.
Dustin went down with the motorcycle. Lived, we understand, about maybe a half hour or so in really bad shape. And then also passed away. So both their lives ended that evening. Their friend Clyde was coming up behind them, and I try to imagine what was going on because they're young people. And Clyde has just witnessed something so horrific happen right in front of him.
Sure.
But he had really quick thinking because my understanding, he threw down his bike and ran to help Dustin. He pulled Tiffany off the road. I don't know if honestly, Nick, I would have thought so quickly like they did, or he did. But he pulled Tiffany off the road so that she would not get hit by another car. He ran to help his friend Dustin. By then, cars are stopping. There's a barricade kind of put up around, the accident scene by just pedestrians and other cars, people in cars. Law enforcement arrives. This is just my recount of everything going on that night. Law enforcement arrives. They take a statement from Clyde, the friend. And this is really what kind of shocks me, is that he was sent home. And I say this, Nick, because he's in shock. He's witnessed something so horrific.
Right.
But he gives his recount of what happened, and then they send him back home on his motorcycle. And I thought he should have never been released, first and foremost, and someone should have took him home in a police vehicle or something.
Yeah.
But then what my understanding, so Clyde, he's trying to figure out, they're in their early 20s. He doesn't have Tiffany's mom's phone number.
Right.
So who does he contact? How do I know who to even call? Plus, he's in a state of shock, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So this was a game of, what did we used to call it, like the phone game or something? Like one person makes a call or makes it, calls another friend, and that person doesn't get the story exactly the same, and they make another call. Yes. And so, excuse me.
You're fine.
So Clyde calls someone, and that someone says, well, I don't know the family, Tiffany's family. They got a hold of Tiffany's best girlfriend, Stephanie. Stephanie says, I don't have the mom's phone number, but I have the brother's. So they contacted my son. This is now about 11:15. So the accident took place at 7:01. So watch your timeline starting to come up behind this.
Wow.
Okay. So now this is 11:15. I had already went to bed. I think I went to bed. I have to take a sip. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I went to bed. I just finished watching a movie. So I might have crawled into bed 10:30, 11 o'clock. I just found my little sweet spot, in my bed. And the phone rang, and I thought, really, who calls me this late at night? That's my thinking. But I thought, well, maybe it's one of my sisters in Milwaukee, and they're just like, forget that time zone change or whatever, and they're just reaching out. So I was going to let the call go to voicemail. But then there was this gut feeling, and it just said, pick up the phone. So I got up and answered the phone, and it was my son, Derek, and he says, Mom, she's been hurt in an accident. So there's that little, what did you call it, Nick? Telephone? That
Kind
little thing.
Yeah.
Derek didn't say she was killed. Derek said she's been hurt and taken to a hospital. So there's your miscommunication, misinformation. He said, Mom, don't ask questions. Get to the hospital. I'll meet you there. So I don't even think I got dressed. I just jumped in my car. I ran to our local hospital, Manatee Memorial. I ran into the emergency room, and I said, I'm looking for Tiffany Marie Olson. And they looked at me and they said, well, she's not here. And I said, well, she's been hurt in an accident. So she's got to be at a hospital somewhere, you would think, right? And I asked him, I said, this is the emergency room. I said, can you call another hospital? Now, this is in 2005. Their response was, because of HIPAA, we don't do that.
Right.
And I'm like, what? That doesn't even make sense. I said, can you call the police? Someone needs to know where my daughter is. She's been in an accident. And their response again was, well, we don't know where it happened. We don't know what county. We don't know anything. But there's a little room down the hall that you can pick up a phone and try and make phone calls yourself. So that's what I did with my son. And we had no luck because they just don't give out information, because it's that HIPAA law. It's the privacy thing. So finally, 1:30 in the morning, watch that window of time. So 7:01, Tiffany is pronounced. Now it's 1:30 in the morning. And I'm standing outside the emergency room entrance here in Bradenton, and Highway Patrol pulls into the parking lot. My son, Derek, who was then 29, is standing on my left-hand side. And he looks, he collapses, and he starts crying. And I just look and I said, not Tiffany, not Tiffany, please, not Tiffany. Law enforcement approached me and very casually said, sorry, she's gone.
Wow.
Well, my thought is that, like, gone to Tampa or gone to St. Pete? I mean, what does that mean? Because I'm only getting the information she's hurt in an accident. And if I remember nothing, I remember the shrug of a shoulder of one of the law enforcement officers saying, well, I presume she's with the medical examiner, but they're closed. You can call them in the morning. And they looked at me and they said, can you sign for this? Really, like in that tone, can you just sign for this? And it was a plastic bag with my daughter's belongings in it. And they sent me home. And that was it.
Oh my, how callous. Oh, geez.
So let's, first of all, it was an emergency room. They don't have those answers. They're treating emergencies. I give them credit for that. For law enforcement, because of the initiative we're going to talk about, they have been stepped up in their training to know how to speak to those that they're responding to in these types of crises.
Or
because it's got to be in the training, because you have to understand, law enforcement must see so many horrific situations
absolutely.
day in, day out. So I don't have hurt feelings, but let's just not make sure that way and those behaviors continue.
Absolutely. 100%.
So that's that. So shortly, and I guess I operated in shock. I don't even know. One day kind of bleeds into another, and then you're planning a funeral and all that, and family is coming in and all that stuff. But somewhere in that time frame, an idea came to me. And I
Yeah.
said, if this is happening to me, it's happening to others. So what if there was a way? Because remember, Tiffany was on a motorcycle.
Right.
She didn't have her purse with her. She had her driver's license with her. So she had it in her pocket along with her money. And I thought, what if there was a way to include emergency contact information in a driver's license? And I just had an idea. So I have no government training or law enforcement training. I was actually a server at the Rod and Reel Pier on Anna Maria Island, which I just recently retired from. So that was my background. I served grouper sandwiches, but I had an idea. So I took that idea. I started a petition drive. I then took it to my state representative, Bill Galvano in Bradenton. He looked at me and he said, "Oh my God, this is amazing." He took it to Florida Highway Safety Motor Vehicles in Tallahassee, Florida, said, "There's a mom in Bradenton that's got this idea. I think we need to look at it." The state of Florida, keyword state of Florida, looked at it and said, "Why haven't we done this? We're doing it immediately." Another keyword, immediately. And on October 2nd, 2006, not even a year after Tiffany's death, TIFF was born here in the state of Florida, where every single Floridian is able to add emergency contact information online with Florida Highway Safety Motor Vehicles. And it also works with permits and state issued ID cards.
Yeah.
Currently, from one mother, just one mother with no training in anything. And I say that because we all have power to do something.
Yeah.
Right now in the state of Florida, almost 22 million people are registered in Florida. And it is pushing its way across the United States of America. And it's in 19 states. So I encourage your listeners to look at the website and see if their state is participating.
Yep. Ohio
also,
is, by the way.
And Ohio is, absolutely. And I believe we're going to hear your story on that.
Yeah.
The goal right here, and this is why I am speaking on this podcast, is this isn't just for, some people think it's children. No, Tiffany was 22. She was an adult. It's for every single person with a driver's license, state issued ID, or a permit for the first time drivers to be able to add that emergency contact quickly. It takes 2 minutes through a state website, through the state Department of Motor Vehicles or whatever you use for, like in Ohio, it's the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, right through a website link. You're just saying, if I'm hurt or whatever, this is who I want notified on my behalf. So I am here with you, Nick, to speak to the special needs, the disabled young people and older people, because you don't necessarily carry a driver's license, although some do.
Yes.
Right? We see it all the time, the miracle stories, but it's everyone needs the service TIFF provides to be able to be reached and notified in an emergency, or for your loved ones and caregivers to be reached and notified quickly in an emergency. That's TIFF's initiative.
Yeah. And it's called Informing Families First, right?
To inform families first. So remember, it's TIFF, to inform families first. Her name was given for a reason, right? I would have never thought it would have been ever this reason. Her name was supposed to be Chloe Michelle. That was my name for my daughter, my only daughter. But I believe I am a woman of faith, and I believe God's got a plan for each one of us. And God intervened and said, no, we need Tiffany, because Tiffany would play a role in humanity. And so Tiffany's father and grandmother said, what about the name Tiffany? And I thought, sounds nice. Tiffany it is. So without Tiffany, we wouldn't have to inform families first, which is the mission.
Yes, absolutely. And the fact that you took such a tragic event in your life and you turned it to help change other people's lives and to prevent the 6.5 hour hell that you went through of not knowing what's going on with your daughter, and all you've been told through the game of what we call Chinese telephone is that your daughter's been hurt. We can't help you because of HIPAA, which is another reason of also why that everybody needs to have a durable medical power of attorney, and which I'm going to redo mine soon, so that if you're ever in that, if somebody's ever in that situation and you say your son needs to get to the hospital, or you need to get to the hospital for your son or daughter need to have that durable medical power of attorney also, so that the hospital can talk to you and release information.
Yes.
But this is also very important because the national average, you told me, Christine, is 6.5 hours.
Well, it's actually 6. So that's just what we hear. That was done, I think, by emergency room medicine or whatever. National average hovers around 6 hours.
Oh
It
my
can
gosh.
be less, but it can be much more. And remember, I said TIFF's initiative is a free service for everyone.
Yes.
But right now on this particular podcast, we're highlighting our special needs audience and the caregivers. Because
Yes.
you've told me about your caregivers. These are also individuals that need to be registered because they're on the road getting to and from appointments and to and from clients. So there you just have how it's relevant for every single person. It's just, it's not young people, old people, it's everyone. So I'm just here to make sure my story doesn't repeat itself for anyone in your listening audience. But it takes an action step. It takes that step of clicking a link, finding your state, registering your emergency contacts. Most states are asking for 2 contacts, primary, secondary, and those contacts can live anywhere in the United States. It's just, who do you want contacted on your behalf? And you can go in and change those contacts if a situation needs to be changed. So that's my hope for this.
Yeah. Now, didn't you say that when the police went and scanned the ID, they went to her house?
No, so remember, this was not available until I came up with this concept. For
Right.
Tiffany's situation, she had her driver's license, but all it had on was her address.
Right.
So that's where they went. They went to her address. But Tiffany is not at her address, is she?
No.
So now you think law enforcement, they're not mind readers. You have to provide that they don't know who your people are. They don't know who your caregivers are. They don't know where your family lives. They don't know your family's name or phone number. You have to provide that as a tool for law enforcement to know and be able to reach out to these individuals. But the key word is quickly. This is, we don't want to suffer that 6 hours anymore. We want to make sure that law enforcement shows up at my emergency, whatever it is, takes my license or state issued ID, they swipe it right in their car, right in their computer, in their vehicle, and it says, if I'm hurt, this is who to notify on my behalf.
Yeah. Yeah. You sent me the link, and I'm going to do this later this week when my primary caregiver comes, and I called my mom and she was like, oh my goodness, That's a great idea. So I've got to send her the link too. And she's gonna, and everyone within the sound of my voice, if you're in one of these 19 states, you need to do this. In my opinion, I believe it needs to be law that this needs to be done. They just came out with the new IDs where you have to have the gold star to fly. Well, this needs to be a part of that. And I'm going to do whatever I can here in the state of Ohio to get every county board, we have 88 of them, to get every county board to get this initiative to their individuals with disabilities, because it is so important. So how did you, in the first couple of weeks, I just have to ask you, how did you put one foot in front of the other?
Well, I think that whole time span is really blocked out because I remember it. It's like you can see a movie replaying over and over, because I remember people coming up to me and then family coming up to me, and they would stand in front of me and be either talking, but you never heard anything audibly. You
Yeah.
just seen like a mouth moving, and you just nodded or whatever, or they hugged or whatever. And I only say it's by the grace of God that I survived this, because I really didn't think I was going to make it. Tiffany was my only daughter. I do have an amazing son that lives 10 minutes away, but Tiffany was my baby girl. So I will never see her, I never will see a wedding. I will never see her beautiful face or her in a beautiful dress, a wedding dress. I will never see a grandchild. I will never be part of her dreams or hopes. She was such an adventurous little gal. I will never be part of that. It was ripped away because someone made the rash decision to try and get through a stop sign quick and ran that stop sign. And I mean, what I've learned through TIFF's initiative for myself is I will give cars and motorcycles extended time. Don't be in such a hurry to just get out there. Just take a minute. Don't go through like especially a red, stoplight, but also the yellow ones. Don't get through that. You don't have to try and hit the gas and get through.
Yeah.
So because there's other, programs down the street from me. There's a gal, Melissa Wandell, and her husband was killed when a woman ran an amber light and killed her husband on impact a half a block from his home while she was 9 months pregnant with their firstborn.
My God.
Because of being in a hurry. But Melissa Wandell, she went on to create the cameras that are in the intersections that record this information. So we work together. And Nick, I really hope to work with you as in a partnership. This is what anyone on these, podcasts, I would love to work together with everybody out there that has a urgency to be part of solutions, not part of problems, that we create a better environment for our listeners, because that's, Nick, you're targeting the special needs world. That is freaking huge that someone has stepped up with their own disability. They said, I want to help others. So when you partner with others by adding a website link, I am going to add Nick's website link to my page. So anyone visiting TIFF's initiative will see Nick's story and say, hey, Nick registers and what he's doing is relevant to my stuff. How can I connect with Nick now? And we build a network of coming together for the greater good. So let's all come together, who's ever on these calls. We all have a voice. We also have a passion. Let's put it together and help those that, that may one time have this need. So that's what I have to say there.
Yeah, because you're a woman of faith, just like I'm a man of faith, and I think that's where we really connect. Um, how has your faith helped you get through these last 19 years?
I probably spend an hour to an hour and a half with Jesus every morning. And he sits on a chair across from me. In my mind, that's what he's doing. And
Yeah.
I read scripture and I listen to devotionals and I ask him questions about what to do. Where do I go? Who do I connect with? I talk, like an anniversary may happen. I just went July 31st, just a couple of days ago, with
Yep.
my mother in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, her 35th anniversary of her passing. Ironically, she was killed just like my daughter by a drunk driver a
Oh
half
my
a block from her house. So faith helps you get through the most horrific situations, the pain of loss. But there's also a bracelet that I wear. I wear my TIFF bracelets, but there's this one right here. And the Bible verse on there is John 11:25. Everybody can take a look at that, John 11:25. And it says, even though you die, you live. Tiffany, earthly life has ended here. But because she listened to the voice of Jesus, heard his call for her life, accepted the Lord as her Savior, Tiffany, I believe, is in the presence of the Lord. That's another promise in the Bible. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So
God.
she, in my opinion, this is how I see it, and I see visions. Tiffany
Hmm.
closed her eyes here on earth, but she took the zip line to the feet of Jesus,
Yes, she did.
probably landed and said, "Whoa, that was interesting." And now she waits for her mother. There's going to be this reunion. That's another promise in the Bible. That's First Thessalonians 4:13 through 18, that talks about the reunion that's going to take place. I can hardly wait, but I believe God has given me this great assignment, commission to do this in his name, to help others, because we are called to serve others, not to be here and just grab for ourselves, but we are called as human beings to help those in need. And that's my job with TIFF's initiative.
That is awesome. And your story, I believe, has touched, millions, obviously, because you have 22 million nearly registered in Florida to do this, and how many others, God knows how many. And I love your story so much because so many, and I'm sure you went through all these feelings, but so many people who go through tragedies like this, you know, they go through the bitterness and they go through the anger at God,
Yeah.
which is all normal, by the way. But so many of them, they never get out of that because it just cripples them. And
And I'll tell you, Nick, it's absolutely amazing the people that I meet, the people that I come into contact with, the people whose lives are changed. There are stories, testimonial pages on my website, toinformfamiliesfirst.org. But there is, it's just when you think that you've maybe made an impression on someone's life, it's not because I'm talented or this or that. I was a server at a little fishing shack from 1947 on Anna Maria Island. But because I wore these bracelets, my TIFF bracelets, while I was a server, people would come in, they would ask me about the bracelet. I told them what it is. They would ask if it's in their state. I said, no, it's not in your state, not yet. I gave them a bracelet, and 3 individuals that I know of went on to change their states, the laws in their state, so we all can do something. And that was Colorado, that was Kentucky, and that was Illinois. And there's actually the woman, there's a woman in Ohio. I met her at a conference in Oklahoma. And she approached me. She said, what is this you're doing? She said, is Ohio doing this yet? And I said, not yet. She took a flyer. She took the link. She went to her state of Ohio. She got it implemented there. And now Nick is going to register because one person said, okay, I'm doing this. I'm taking a step. I'm going to do something. But we have many states that have not implemented this yet. So if there's people listening, all it takes is sending the link. We're going to provide this all in the notes and that.
Yeah.
That you take the link, the website link, and you share it with a state representative or a police chief or a sheriff and say, hey, they're doing this program in Ohio. They're doing this program in Florida and many other states. I want it done in my state. Michigan, I'm talking to you. Minnesota, California, Wyoming, Montana, and the rest.
Yeah.
Share the link. Tell them, encourage them, please do it for myself and my family that call your state home. And then let's get this done. But I wanted to just, Nick, we talked about special needs, but it's also for those with intellectual disabilities.
Absolutely.
So it's those with senior citizens with dementia and Alzheimer's. It's for our veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, huge things. It's for those with speech and hearing impairments. I want to speak also of my sister Barbara in Milwaukee. Her grandson is Julian. He's nonverbal, autistic young man, and he really stays pretty much home because of his nonverbal, condition in that. But just let's paint a picture. What if he walked out the door and walked down the street? How would anyone know to call his mother or grandmother? So we have to make sure all these individuals, if we work with any of these, any of these groups, that we reach out, get the website link on their websites and say, please, if you have any of these conditions, I work with Salvation Army, I work with our homeless, get the link, help those in need. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to make you a freaking awesome human being because you participated in world change. That's what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? This is a great initiative because one of the things when I called my mom and I told her your story, she was like, "It's a great idea and everything and all that, and it's perfect." And she was like, "I'm so sorry that happened to her," meaning you, and she said, "But Nick, you're with your caregiver all the time. So, and I just thought about this, but I travel with my caregiver all the time. And God forbid, what if we get in an accident and none of us are able to speak and say, this is what happened, this is our ID, and this is going to be perfect, especially for those that are nonverbal." And parents have trouble with their kids, eloping all the time that are nonverbal. And even if there's house alarms, they still go past those house alarms and all. This needs to happen in every county board. I'm going to do my best to try to get this, considering that it's free, to try to get this a part of the waiver services. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get this in front of every county board in the state of Ohio, so that every parent with a kid that has a disability, or if the parent has they know that this
Yes.
is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because and dementia is really important too. Um, Several years back, we had an issue with my uncle, who now is unfortunately in a nursing home with his dementia. But at the time, um, the police got called because he drove his car all the way from Ohio to Indianapolis. He had no idea where he was going.
Wow.
He had soaked himself, defecated on himself. Nobody knew where he was. Family members had to drive to Indianapolis to go pick him up. And, and I think about this now and I'm like, what would have happened if he would have had this? Somebody would have been able to take his ID and just scan it and say, oh, this is his emergency contact. Okay, let's call them,
Yeah,
and it would have prevented a lot of things. But
sure would have.
so this is why I say at the end and at the end and at the beginning of every podcast, speak up, speak out, and speak loud. And this is one of those things that we are definitely going to continue to speak up about and speak out about and speak loud about, because this needs to happen in every state in the union. Every state of the union, from the president on down, really needs to make a law. And I'm so glad that you took your pain and you turned it into purpose. I
Yeah.
love that for you. I love that for
Well, I tell you, it's without my faith in God, it really wouldn't have happened, because
you.
you know, when something like this happens, it could very possibly take your own life. You cause you to take your very own life, or cause you to spiral into a deep hole that you'll never come out of. But this has given me just, a purpose, a calling, a passion, that I will leave my mark on this planet when I go home to be with the Lord. But I just do want to add, if I may, Nick, that we
Absolutely.
really have to, whoever's listening, make it your goal today. Who can I help today? Who can I share this with? Do I have a story? Do your listeners have a personal story that they can share on their social media page? Hey, I just heard about this. I registered. I'm encouraging you to do, because it will catapult itself to other pages, to other websites, to other people. And all of a sudden, we're coming together as a nation for the greater good. But share the link, share your story. Go out there with an attitude of just random acts of kindness. Just don't, I was shopping yesterday. I was in Fort Myers. I was on a little day trip, and it was a clerk at a World Market store that said she just moved here from New York. I asked her if she knew she could do this. She said yes. They asked me at the motor vehicle thing. She said, I've done it, and I got my first time driver daughter to do it too. I said, freaking awesome. All I had to do was say, just share good news. That's all we're doing. But let's all do today. Let's make it our mission on this earth to be kind, to share great information if we have it, to just, be just really just do something for others. It's not about us. It really isn't. So I just hope that my calling, my heart has really maybe placed, has tugged on the strings of the listener's heart and said, Christine, I want to be involved. I need help. I'm kind of a one-man band here. But if you have any questions, we're going to provide my email, my website link, and just reach out to myself or to Nick and say, how do I get involved in this circle of caring?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think, you know what, Nick, I don't remember who said it, might have been you, but dare to care.
Yeah.
Dare to care. You know what? Really, let's just live like that and live it loud. I'm
Yeah.
daring to care for someone today.
Yes, I love it, and I loved your spontaneity and just your whole attitude. You're so beautiful. And your daughter is, and we're gonna put pictures of your daughter up, and you'll send me some pictures, and we will definitely put this in the show notes. And you guys, I'm just so happy that you took time to listen today. So not only is her link going to be in the show notes, too, and Families First, it's going to be in the show notes. But as always, guys, the link to my book will be there. And I wrote a chapter called Breaking the Mold with 11 other great authors. Be sure you check that out. And also, my GoFundMe will be there to help keep this podcast on the air. I told you guys last week that the next couple months of my podcast have been paid for thanks to wonderful people like you. So
awesome.
continue to do that. Yes, it is awesome. I love it. And if you want to be on the show, get a hold of me, nickspeaksofficial@gmail.com. If you want to get a hold of Christine, all the information will be there. Christine, thank you for being here today. It's been awesome.
It really has been awesome, Nick. And I'm so grateful to Connie Davis. Let's give her a shout out for making that connection. And that's how, we can connect each other. Connie Davis helped me with a project, and then she connected me with Nick. And so, it just makes life a greater thing when we all participate in the greater good. So thank you, Nick, so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It certainly does. And that's what life is all about. And that's what podcasting is all about. And I told you guys last week, podcasting is one connection after another, and my life has been changed because of it. So thank you for listening today. This is the Nick Speaks podcast, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I'm your host, Nick Comstock. Please join me for next week with another great guest. I will see you then. Bye-bye.